Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, and I have an update on the Bachelor Clayton Echard versus Laura Owens trial that's rocking the world. If you're following me for my Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively coverage, I got to tell you, get invested in this case. It's absolutely wild. For several years now, we've been covering Laura Owens. She accused Clayton Echard of being the father of her unborn twins, and then, of course, she claims she miscarried over 20 weeks in, which would be a stillbirth. Either way, she has been charged with 7 felonies, and we now have the police report from when her home was raided. Her home was raided several months ago. And again, shout out to Justice for Clayton Official on Instagram. They do a really good job of compiling a lot of this information. We of course, are getting it from all angles. So many awesome people from the old days of the flock to everybody else that has helped unearth this story. It's a real grassroots movement by our audience, the Justice for Clayton community, to getting consequences for somebody who has lied for the better part of a decade, at least, about being pregnant with multiple men. She's got 3 different restraining orders against 3 different men, and now her home has been raided. What did they take? We're going to find out all the information. As Justice for Clayton Official says, if you're new to the community, this is the movement advocating for dozens of victims of Laura Owens, including 3 men, Clayton, Greg, and Mike, who are falsely accused of impregnating Laura with twins and abusing her. They have endured years of legal abuse and $100,000 in damages and legal fees as a result. Well, now we're finding out even the police aren't safe from Laura. Here's the Scottsdale police report. I'm going to share pretty much all 9 pages of it with you guys, so hang tight, buckle up. And by the way, just so you know, tomorrow, Thursday, is the arraignment. That's where Laura Owens has to show up. She says she's going to show up via Zoom. She says she has a criminal defense attorney, according to her unpaid charitable attorney, family attorney, David Gingras, Baby Jingy, as we call him. Either way, this is because of you. This is for every click, every like, every donation to the legal fund that has led to getting the serious investigation into her misuse of the system. On January 29th, 2025, again, this is from the detective, the department report from reporting officer Baron Fulp. I said detective, the reporting officer. I was working in my capacity as a special assignments unit detective. On this day, SAU was tasked with assistance with a search warrant from the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Signed by Honorable Tara Pronchko, who was for the property and evidence redacted, provided a search warrant brief that explained a subject identified as Laura Owens was residing at a home located in the rear of redacted. Maricopa County detectives further explained that there was probable cause for Miss Owens' arrest for perjury, tampering with evidence, and theft by extortion. It should be noted that although there was probable cause to arrest Miss Owens, they were simply tasked with securing the location and briefly detaining her, as Maricopa County law enforcement officers could conduct a search of the listed residence for evidence. Unbelievable. They said they could have arrested her on the spot. At 6 a.m., I attended a search warrant brief. In the brief, it was noted that Miss Owens' 2 elderly parents were residing in the main house, and Miss Owens was residing in the casita located in the backyard of the property. It should be noted that all detectives, including myself, wore standard issue gray uniforms with police tactile vests displaying police lettering on the front and back. I was also equipped with an activated on-body camera that captured my involvement in this incident. The following detectives were involved in this search warrant: Detective Buckner, lists all the detectives. I arrived on scene via my semi-marked police vehicle at approximately 6:45 a.m. I was the 3rd operator within the entry team of the main house. At approximately 6:47, Detective Buckner provided multiple knocks and announced commands. After multiple rounds of the knock and announced commands, Miss Owens' mother reluctantly answered the door. At approximately 6:50 a.m., I assisted with the entry and clear of the main structure. It should be noted that during the clear, I did not break anything or come into direct contact with any individuals. Once the main structure was clear, I heard detectives come into contact with Miss Owens in the back casita. She was refusing to exit. Upon hearing this, I exited the main structure and walked to the casita where I assisted with securing the outside of the structure. Detectives eventually were able to coerce Miss Owens out of the casita. Maybe they had like a burrito on a stick. They kind of were like pulling it out. I don't really know what they did to coerce her. As Miss Owens was being escorted, she continued to complain about the police presence and state she was being unreasonably assaulted by police. From my vantage point, I did not see detectives escort Miss Owens into the structure, nor did I see detectives use any force despite allegations from Miss Owens. At approximately 6:55 a.m., the residence was secured. Maricopa detectives in the scene was turned over to them. This concludes my involvement in the matter. All right, so that's for the first guy, but oh boy, does it get better. Here we have a supplemental report from reporting officer Brandon Buckner. I was acting in the capacity of detective in the Special Assignments Unit when I attended a briefing at approximately 6 a.m., reference to a residential search warrant. They were requested by the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, blah, blah, blah. So they get the elderly parents, Jan and Ron. Information was that Laura stayed in a casita located in the back of the residence. After attending the briefing, I drove my unmarked vehicle to the above listed address. I was dressed in my gray and black uniform with ballistic vest displaying police on the front and back and equipped with body-worn camera. At approximately 6:47 a.m., I approached the front door along with other members, ringing the Ring camera doorbell and knocking loudly, announcing, "Police, search warrant, open the door." I repeated this multiple times, giving names of the occupants inside to open the door. A very short time later, I heard a female voice from inside asking who it was. I wonder if she tried to give them candy bars. Again, I identified myself, telling her to look at her camera to verify it was the police. After a short verbal exchange through the door, an elderly female opened the door at approximately 6:49 a.m., whom I believe to be Jan. She indicated that she was inside with her husband, Ron, and that Laura was in the back casita. We entered the residence, and I gave loud announcements to Ron that it was the police, and we had a search warrant. I could hear a voice from a back bedroom and proceeded to the room, turning on lights as I went. Inside of the room, I observed Ron sitting in bed. Ron appeared frail, and he explained that he had cancer. While speaking to Ron, I heard over the radio that personnel were in contact with Laura in the casita. She initially refused to come out. After a few minutes, she exited and was escorted inside into the living room. Ron also requested to go to the living room with his wife. I assisted Ron in getting him dressed and providing his walker. He was assisted into the living room where he sat in a chair. The scene was turned over to the investigators. Again, this is so sad that Laura Owens would put her parents through this, although it seems as though Laura's mom is probably somehow involved. You guys might remember body camera footage where Laura's mom called me like the bad guy, you know? And to be quite honest, while we have had a lot of support from a lot of people, if we didn't cover this, it never gets this far. Even like getting Megan Fox and others involved, this thing could have been dropped months before anyone else got involved because Laura would have claimed miscarriage early on and so, you know, but because of the audience calling her out early and often, it led to her doubling down to the point where she's now saying, I'm pregnant, or I was, and she's ready to go to jail for it. So here is Kyle Swan and what he had to say. Again, some of this is redundant, but, you know, interesting to read nonetheless. I attended a search warrant, blah, blah, blah. Laura's parents, Ron and Jan, lived in the main house. After the briefing, I drove to the residence with other members, knocks on the door. I exited the main house's rear sliding glass door and walked to the casita, where detectives were conversing with a female inside the casita. The female was identified as Laura Owens. Laura was arguing with detectives behind a slightly open sliding glass door. Laura refused to comply with commands and stated she was calling her lawyer. Laura shut the sliding glass door, locked it, and then walked to her bed. I left the area to obtain breaching tools. Oh, breaching tools. We call that a battering ram. And by the way, on tomorrow's episode of the podcast, I talked to Megan Fox, and she shares this story with me for the first time because this is the first time I'm hearing about it, all the details. As I walked back to the casita, Laura had complied with commands. Detectives escorted her into the main house. I made entry into the casita and checked the living area and found no additional people. The main house and casita was deemed clear. I then walked around the side of the house and off property. And this incident was recorded on my body-worn camera, and the video was uploaded to evidence.com. We will be getting a copy of that video. All right, here we have Scottsdale Police, again, sharing their information. Working in capacity. During a brief, explained that the subject matter, Laura, resides in the casita. At 6:45, I drove my unmarked vehicle to the address listed above. I exited my vehicle and approached the residence on foot. I was tasked with covering a gate located on the north side of the property while other detectives knocked the front door. Shortly after, the detectives contacted an elderly female at the front door who goes by the name of Jan. I remained by the north side gate. Oh, it sucks to be this guy. He had the door duty. Door duty sucks. So he's there just in case, I don't know, Laura leaves by horse or something. Owens called her attorney and shortly after came out of the casita. Owens was escorted into the main residence. It should be noted that Owens was erratic the entire time by claiming we were not real police, complaining about how early it was, and lastly state she was being unreasonably assaulted by police. Hey, could you guys, I know you guys have to raid my house, but could you do it after 10 a.m.? I got my soap operas. I got to catch Dave's morning rush hour podcast. And so, of course, she was upset. No one wants to be raided before sunrise. Where do you go with the rest of your day, you know? From my view, I did not observe the detective who escorted Owens inside with no handcuffs forcibly escort Owens, nor did I see the detective use any force despite allegations from Owens. So again, Owens is alleging that they assaulted her. She also made the same allegations against San Francisco police, I believe, according to people I've spoken to, in fights years ago. So she wants to break the law, and then when the police come to enforce it, she wants to accuse them of being fake police. And I mean, she is seemingly a monster, in my opinion. So again, here is Detective Logan Cron. We're going to get all the boys together and girls. Upon arrival, I assisted detectives as they made contact with Laura at the sliding glass door. Laura had locked the security screen door and was refusing to exit after detectives had identified themselves as police and stated that they were in possession of a search warrant for the property. Laura appeared very upset and began stating multiple times that our weapons were drawn on her. It should be noted that at no time did I point a weapon at Laura. Yeah, the last person to point a loaded weapon at Laura was Clayton's. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. His metaphorical loaded weapon. They had oral sex. My city-issued handgun remained holstered at all times. Clayton's gun wasn't holstered. It was loosey-goosey. My city-issued rifle remained slung and safely pointed at the ground. It's also important to note that I did not observe any other detectives point any weapon at Laura. After arguing with detectives for some time and continuing to refuse to exit the building, Laura contacted her attorney via phone, who advised her to cooperate with police officials. Laura then opened the security screen door. By the way, what's a security screen door? That doesn't seem like much of a security. But still refused to exit until I took a hold of her right wrist and escorted her out. Ooh, she likes it when you play dirty. I then escorted her into the primary residence where I had been instructed to take her to the front room around her right. By the way, I mean, first of all, I just want to say this. On one end, I'm horrified by this because it sounds horrible, but there's about a million ways Laura could have ended this charade before it got to this level. So when we see the body cam footage of Laura, in her nightie or maybe her Dave Neal merch, I don't know what she wears to bed. When we see that, it's going to look horrible, but what can you do? What can you do, right? They got to acquire their evidence, and she's going to try to do anything she can to spoil it. I escorted her in the escort position with my right hand around her right wrist and my left hand on the back of her right tricep. Due to her erratic behavior and her initial refusal to comply with police commands, I continued escorting her in this position to ensure her safety and mine. As I was escorting her through the house to the front room, we passed the room that her handicapped father was in. Another detective was in the room with her father to assist him to the front room. As we passed the open door to the room, Laura became very irate, shouting that her father could not walk and that he was handicapped. And by the way, again, this is more her using someone else's illness to her advantage. She'll use anything to her advantage here. Her dad's got cancer and she's going to use it to try to argue that they're roughhousing her and him. As another detective and I attempted to explain to her that a detective was there to assist her father, she continued shouting over us and attempting to pull away from me. I advised Laura that if she did not cooperate, she would be placed in handcuffs. Laura continued to shout at me and began stating that I was hurting her and that I was going to leave bruises on her arm. It should be noted that I applied very little, if any, pressure to her arm as I was escorting her, as can be seen in my footage. I applied only the needed amount of pressure to keep her from pulling away from me. After arguing with me for a short time, Laura then walked to the front room where she joined her mother. I then exited the residence. Wow. This is crazy. I mean, how crazy is this, folks, that it got this far? Take a victory lap out there. Take a victory lap because, again, for everyone who donated, for everyone who believed in Clayton's innocence, Mike's innocence, Greg's innocence, everyone. Justice for Greg Woodnick, too. Woodnick, Gillespie, the whole 9 yards. For everyone who believed in them, this is huge. All right. Last one. Reporting officer Ryan Sylvester. They have great cop names. Ryan Sylvester. The Sly. Ryan Sly. So he gets through the BS. Following the briefing, I drove my unmarked vehicle. I was dressed in my issued gray, blah, blah, blah. Assigned to secure the rear of the property along with other detectives. And after several search warrant announcements were made, my element entered the rear of the property through a side gate. Once inside the back of the property, I observed the detached living quarters and saw a female inside, later confirmed to be Laura Owens. Detectives and I approached the living quarters announcing our presence as Scottsdale Police and contacted Laura. We explained to Laura we had a search warrant for the property and directed her to exit the living quarters. Laura appeared upset, locked her door, and stated she wanted to call her lawyer, Baby Jingy. The lawyer she doesn't pay. I'm sure Gingras' I was going to say his wife probably was very happy. He's getting phone calls at 5 a.m. and doesn't even make any money off of it. Laura then made a phone call and opened the door, at which time she was escorted out of the residence, then escorted Laura into the residence. So same stuff. At no point did they hurt her, is basically what they're saying. So there it is. There it is. Now, this is all insane information that's coming out. Still kind of digesting everything we have here. We'll have more as I talk to Megan Fox tomorrow. We will definitely be streaming the body cam footage whenever it comes out. Double check, confirm you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. YouTube kind of does some funky things once in a while where people get unsubscribed. And if you want more content every morning and every afternoon, we got the podcast, all of your pop culture, entertainment, political, and social news in one place for your rush hour ride home. We'll see you next with that. I'm Dave, and this is an extra episode of The Rush.